Coke to all who suffer for the sake of honesty. All those who refuse to follow traitors to humanity. Here's to all the ganja growers who stand up for sanity as they march them off to prison in this land of liberty. So heed the dread awful power of the drug war grinding on. Each year, wasting $18 billion on the crimes of Washington. Don't forget the ganja growers in their silent, lonely plea as they march them off to prison. They are going for you and me.
My name is Chris Conrad. I'm author of this book, Hemp for Health, which outlines 5,000 years of medical history of the use of marijuana for a wide variety of medical problems. Today we hear mostly about AIDS and cancer, glaucoma, one of the most common forms of blindness. But throughout history, cannabis has been used for hundreds of different health problems, mainly because it's not only effective in treating problems like nausea, pain, spasticity, and things like that, but also because it is so safe. It's the safest drug known to man. There's no overdose potential for it. Pharmaceutical companies make products that have been developed in the past 100 years as replacements for cannabis, but they're afraid it's going to get legalized because they're afraid of their loss of profits. For example, Valium, used to calm people down and help with neurological problems. Cannabis can do the same thing, but you can grow it for free in your backyard. The same thing goes for a lot of different pain reducers or antidepressants and things like that. The absurdity of it is that they say marijuana has to be illegal because it has THC in it, but they will sell you THC as long as it's synthetic. It has an oil that has essential fatty acids in it. These essential fatty acids, they're called essential because you need them. And that there's the basis that's used to produce other fatty acids. They're secondary fatty acids. And what you need to know about that is that all your cells on your body are coated with a layer of essential fatty acid. All the neurological transmissions going through your nervous system is transmitted over synapse by essential fatty acids. And another incredible thing in the hemp seed is that it's got another compound called edison, which is very unique amongst plants. What it does is it helps your digestive system to process food. So when people haven't had food for a while, like you mentioned wasting syndrome, for example, if you haven't eaten for a while and then you try to eat, your body has a hard time digesting it. But the hemp seed has an additional compound to make it easier for your body to assimilate it. In 1937, there was an article that was published by Popular Mechanics that showed that there were 37,000 products you could make out of it then. Well, there's even more. That was before plastic came on big, and you can make plastic out of hemp. It produces 3 times as much fiber per acre, hemp does, as does cotton. Cotton requires 14 applications of herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, and defoliants. Cannabis takes 0. And in fact, the government has just authorized $23 million for a program to develop a special fungus to attack the cannabis plant because it has so few natural enemies that the government is spending money to develop this. Anything that can be made out of fossil fuels, cotton, or timber can be made out of hemp. But if you use hemp instead of timber for making paper, not only do you get 3 to 4 times as much yield per acre on a sustainable basis, but you don't have to cut the forests. So you save the forest, and then when you process the hemp to make paper, you don't need to use the heavy chemical processing. To take a tree and break it into a piece of paper is hard. To take hemp and break it into a piece of paper is very easy. The only problem that's made it hard for us to make that change is the technology that's been developed in the past 100 years has favored the more destructive methodologies, like using a lot of sulfur, throw it in the river, and then it poisons the river. But with hemp, you don't have to do that. I've been working on this subject for a little over 10 years now. I've written 4 books dealing with it, and I've traveled in Europe. I helped to put together the Hash Marijuana Hemp Museum in Amsterdam. I'm one of only a handful of people who's qualified in California as a marijuana expert, and I'm allowed to testify in court cases to defend marijuana users, particularly patients under Proposition 215. So this is an area where we need more people who can do the research to stand up for the rights of the patients and so forth. The government says that the reason they're having a war on drugs is somehow to protect us, that there's a public health issue involved here. I want to just mention one thing. One of the reasons they say marijuana is a danger is because people smoke it and it's got some carbon monoxide and some other potential carcinogenic substances in it. Now the government is locking away, it's arresting 643,000 people per year for marijuana offenses. About 40,000 at least Americans in prison right now for marijuana, because, and somehow this is supposed to be protecting our health. But one of the things that I'm trying to say is that if they're concerned about our health, then why do they say that smoking marijuana is a danger when they know that there's not one single case of cancer from smoking marijuana? But they also know that the reason that it's considered a health risk is because it can cause bronchitis. They also know that the way to prevent that is by taking certain safety tips. You should not inhale marijuana so deeply, don't take such a big puff, and don't hold it in your lungs as long. That in itself is the safest way to smoke marijuana. The tobacco industry directly contributes to an organization called the Partnership for a Drug-Free America that gets $500 million a year from the federal government to do anti-marijuana messages. The reason I'm so dedicated is because of two things. One is that people say, aren't you afraid of what's going to happen to you for sticking your neck out? My answer to that is I'm more afraid of what happens if nobody stands up against these guys. That really scares me. And the other thing is that I have a lot of hope and confidence in my generation and in the generations that have followed, that we are seeing through the veil. You have to wonder about a government that decides that people having fun is such a threat to it that they're willing to destroy the health care of the country, they're willing to destroy the environment, they're willing to undermine the economy, and they're willing to lock away over 1 million, almost 2 million people in prison. A lot of them in there for this drug war, just because they don't want people to have fun. If you think that the most valuable medical plant in history, listed as one of the 5 most valuable plants in the Chinese literature, listed as one of the 5 most valuable plants in the Hindu literature, listed as the single most useful medicine in Africa, and now it's illegal, if you think that's all coincidence, then I got a bridge in Brooklyn I'd like to sell you.